Hello everyone, Jayma Malmi here. Welcome to another scrapbook process video. Today I'm working on the title page or cover page, whatever you want to call that opening page when you first open your scrapbook. I have some photos of my sister and her family on the airplane leaving for Hawaii, and these are going to be the opening photos on that page of her Hawaii album that I'm making for their family. I've done a couple of other pages for that album and I will link those down below. They are more like water themed layouts so far. So I wanted to talk in this video about what I do to prepare when I'm getting ready to make a layout to take away some of the overwhelm. So we all have, tons of supplies, right? If you've been doing this for a while anyway, you've got lots of supplies and it can be overwhelming to pull from those supplies for a layout. So what I like to do is start with the supplies I think I'm going to use and then go from there. And then I'm just pulling from those supplies that I've got. So for this layout, I've got my Are We There Yet travel collection, which is going to work perfectly. So the colors work with this. My nephew is wearing this mint colored shirt, and then there's a lot of grays and neutrals, and we've got all of that in this pack. This collection has lots of different colors and you could pull out what you want to use based on the colors. So like this one is, more neutral, and you can pull in other pops of color with cardstock or stamping or embellishments, things like that. If you've got yellow, you can make it, more yellow themed. Maybe use this with some yellow and you've got a totally different look. So what I've done is pulled out things that I think I might use. And by the way, I thought I would also mention that there's this Deck the Palms collection that I was considering using as well. But because this is the opening page and it's travel airplane photos, I wanted to go with the travel theme. But I'll probably be mixing this in with, in later layouts in the album. So in my albums, I don't necessarily care if everything is from the same collection. I know a lot of people like to do that. Like a travel album, you might use all of this collection. I like to mix and match and do all sorts of different color combos and collections and all that. So this is for this page. I've also pulled out some stamp sets I think I might use. I've limited myself to 4, unless I use an alphabet maybe for the title, but this is what I have to pull from, so I'm not going to get overwhelmed with my whole bin of stamps and trying to find what I want while I'm working. I've got it all pulled out ahead of time. So I've got the Are We There Yet Scrapbooking collection stamp set, and this has coordinating dies. And just want to show you really quick, if you're not familiar with Close to My Heart's Stampin' Dies, they come nice and compact in this little envelope here. You can also get them without the dies if you want just the stamp set. But as you can see, indicated with these little blue shadings, all of these have coordinating dies. You don't have to cut them apart or anything. They're already on a magnetic sheet. It's really nice and handy. I've also got the Are We There Yet card making workshop. This is only available in the card making kit, this Stampin' Die set, but I really loved the stitched detail on this little suitcase, and then those tags have some stitch detail as well. I really, really liked that. We've got the cute little, trees. We do a lot of hiking, so I thought that would be good. So this doesn't have to be limited just to card making, but it is available in only the card making workshop, and the workshop comes with a guide and everything to create 4 of each of these cards with the cutting instructions and everything. There are also scrapbooking workshop kits as well if you want to look at the scrapbooking workshop kit. I've also got this Are We There Yet Borders stamp set, and I really liked the idea of cutting out these little tickets to use on this page, but we've also got these fun little icons that I can use. This also has dies. I didn't get it with the dies, but the dies would cut out this border, and this little scallop border, which can also be used on their own. And then I've also got the 11 Right Now stamp set. It has a lot of, there's like a journaling spot, and then lots of fun little sayings and a little camera that can be just kind of mixed in everywhere. This is one that I'm probably going to pull out a lot just because it's good to mix in with any type of layout, whether it's 8.5 by 11, 12 by 12, which is what I normally do, 6 by 6, pocket pages, anything like that. So I've got my paper collection, and I've also got the things that go with this collection that will help stretch that paper. I've got these cute little rubber shapes with the suitcases and backpacks, and I've got the pocket cards. So these are good for titles, or you could cut little things out, like you could cut these little suitcases out. These are the same suitcases as on the sticker sheet, but just a smaller scale, so you could trim those out. There's some fun little patterns that you could use, like I could cut the suitcase out of this. That little stitch suitcase would be really cute, cut out of just this little map paper. And then there's lots of other little fun things, so pulled this out to work with as well. I've also got the Mix-In collection, which is designed to go with all of Close to My Heart's current collections. And it's got a lot of similar colors. Like, I love this stripe, and how cute is that to just mix in with this collection. It's got all the same colors. But then any of these, like maybe you want the Sapphire to stand out more in this collection, you can pull in another sheet of Sapphire if you wanted another Sapphire pattern paper, or you can pull in the cardstock. And the cardstock actually comes in a pack. You can get a pack that coordinates with this collection if you didn't want to buy, you know, each one of these individually. There's packs for every paper pack, which makes it nice and easy. Last thing I pulled out is the stencil pack, and this is the stencil pack 1. They are 12 by 12 stencils. So let me just show those to you really quick. I used these waves and the sun on a previous layout for this Hawaii album. So again, that is linked down in the description below, and that was super fun. I love using stencils, and I'm excited to use them on this again. This Explore will layer up on each other. So you've got the base layer, the mountains, the trees, and more trees. And I used that as a title on a previous layout, but you've also got these layering birch trees, this little badge, little wood grain, some stars, lots of fun things there. And then what I'm most likely going to be using today is this one. So we do have a title, Live, Love, Travel. I'm not sure I'll use that. I'm thinking either this kind of city map or this world map. This isn't the city, but you know, it doesn't have to be literal. So this just makes a fun pattern. And then again, this one, it doesn't show Hawaii, which is where they were, but it doesn't have to be literal. It just kind of represents travel. It's also got this little cityscape that will layer on each other, and then these two will layer and make a suitcase. So those are fun. And then just wanted to show you where my inspiration came from. I've got the Love of Color book right here, and this is great for choosing color combos. There's every color that Close to My Heart has, except for I think the most recent releases. But it's also got really great artwork in it. So I was flipping through it, found this 8.5 by 11 layout, and even though I don't have a landscape 4x6, my two portrait 3x4s make that same shape. So when you're trying to find some inspiration, if you look through, you know, Pinterest or books or anything like that, then look at, you know, what you could do. If you wanted to print two, you could print them at 3x4. And usually I print my photos after I decide kind of the direction of the layout I want to go. So if I had one, you know, landscape photo, I would have printed it like this, but I had two portrait orientation photos, so I printed them at 3x4 so I could still fill this space and do what I wanted to do with my layout. So a little tip there. And I print my photos at home, so that makes it easy, and I do print them at home so that I have that flexibility, because I like to print my photos for the layout I'm creating. So if you want to see how I print my photos at 3x4 and resize them and all that, I have a video all on how to resize your photos, organize them, print them on the PM400 by Epson, all that, and I will link that in the description down below as well. All right, so I think I've covered everything I wanted to. Let's go ahead and dive in. I've chosen the pattern papers that I want to use. I've got 4 patterns here, and notice I do have that stripe from the Mix-In collection. It looks really nice with these other patterns. I went for patterns that had just a little bit of that papaya color. I didn't want much of that color. I wanted to work with mostly that Glacier, which is kind of the minty color, and then the Sapphire color. So that's what I'm trying to kind of draw out the most. And then I ordered them by how heavy the background is. So I've got the Sapphire background, and then one with sort of a white background, and then the Glacier background, and then the suitcases. Even though it's got a lot of color, it does have a white background. And so that's kind of the things that I pay attention to when I'm putting pattern papers next to each other, just to make sure that kind of the whites and the colors balance out. Now I'm pulling in my Versamat to work on. Even though I'm not doing a 12 by 12, it's nice to have that contrast of the background since I have a white background for my layout. And I'm going to tear the edges of all of these strips. I did cut them to about 1.5 inches, and I'm holding the paper in my left hand, tearing with my right, and I don't want the white core of the paper to show, so I'm tearing it backwards. If you wanted the white core to show, you would tear it forwards. And I'm going to do a little treatment here in just a little bit to kind of ruffle those edges and give them some more dimension. So I've got all of those torn, and then I've got my water brush, and I just squeeze a little bit of water out, and I'm going to go along that torn edge and wet the edge, and that's going to help me to kind of curl and ruffle those torn edges even more than I would have been able to. This is optional, you don't have to do it, but one of the things I love about using the water is that once it dries, it gives you more dimension than if you didn't use water. So I'm really ruffling it up, and it's going to give some really nice texture and dimension when we are all done. You want to be mindful of what pattern is on the back of your paper, because if it's a totally like distracting or different color, then you want to be careful how you curl all of the little pieces back so you don't show much of that background paper. But all of these ended up working out nicely. So now I am going to just kind of lay them in place and see how much of each paper I want peeking out, how far across the page I want those pages or those pieces to go. So my inspiration shows them going not quite halfway across the page, and I think that is a nice balance because I like things that are a little bit off center. So I think that this looks good right now. I'm just going to put my photos in place and decide where I want my stenciling to go. So trying to decide if I want that city map stencil or the world map, and I decided to go with the city map, and I decided to go with a very light ink. So I pulled in linen, which is one of the colors that is in this collection, and I pulled what I thought was a clean blending brush, but it actually was used for toffee. So my linen, which is supposed to be a very light gray, ended up being kind of a light brown, which, you know what, it's okay because there is toffee in this collection as well, so I'm not going to worry about changing my paper or anything like that. I think that this ended up being a happy accident. And now that I've got those little pieces, those stenciling spots in place, I'm going to glue down these strips, and I'm just putting adhesive on the very left edge so that I still have some room to slide each of the next pieces underneath and slide them exactly how far under I want. Sometimes using tweezers helps a little bit. So got all of those in place, and now I'm going to decide what color matte I want. I matted my photos in white, and I want to add a color matte as well. I was really liking the Sapphire, but I wasn't sure about the Sapphire matte on top of the Sapphire pattern, and I kind of ran into that with the Glacier. I didn't like the Glacier matte because it kind of drowned out my photos. I do like that Papaya matte, but I didn't want to bring in any of that Papaya color. I do like this, and this is Kraft, or you could use Toffee. I liked it on the background, but I didn't like it on my photos. So this is what I do sometimes. I'm gonna double matte because I want the Sapphire right around my photos, but I want the Toffee to be what's right next to the pattern paper, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna go ahead and double matte, and I put the photos, both of them together on the same mat for these mats. And I'm using this edge distressor to give it kind of a ruffled look to mimic the ripping that I did on those pattern papers. And then since I had this blending brush out and my linen ink, I went ahead and added a little bit of ink around the edges as well. Now remember I mentioned that there's some extra dimension on those little ruffled pieces because of that extra ruffling I did. And so what I'm doing here is adding a few pieces of cardstock on the other side of the photo to match the dimension that I have on the left side. And so now that's pretty even. And now I'm going to go ahead and start my embellishing. So I first turned to the sticker sheet because I was thinking I wanted to use this away we go sticker. I thought that was a really appropriate phrase to have on the opening page of a travel scrapbook album. And I'm using that it's an anti-static powder bag for if you're going to do embossing, but it does a good job of getting that stick off the back of your stickers if you want to have a little bit of wiggle room and kind of audition them around the page and not have them stick right away. And then some of the stickers I'm going to end up putting up on some thin 3D foam tape as well. So now I'm going to make some of my own embellishments with stamps. I love that the stamps give you the versatility to put them in whatever color you want. So I'm actually going to do several colors of them. I haven't used these stamps yet, so I was just rubbing my hand on them to season them and help get some of that manufacturing little, gunk and stuff off of them. It's very helpful when you do that. And I'm using Sapphire here, and I got a nice stamped impression there. And I'm just going to clean the stamp with my stamp chamois in between each color. I was just showing you that I keep my stamp chamois in a salt cellar that I got on Amazon, and it ends up working well. I close the little lid and it keeps it moist for like a couple weeks. I don't have to wet it every time I use it as long as I close that. Now I'm going to do Toffee. I wasn't sure what color I wanted. I'm going to give this one another stamping because it ended up being a little blotchy, I think because it was still slightly wet from the stamp chamois. And then I'm just going to trim that off, and then that gives me another spot to do another one. And I'm going to do Papaya, although I ended up not using that one. I ended up not using the Toffee either, for that matter. So now here are those pocket cards. I'm going to first trim out this little geo tag. I thought this was really cute, and I thought it would be cute to leave a little Toffee border around that as well. But I ended up cutting the Toffee border off because you could tell that my cutting wasn't perfect. And then I'm cutting out those tags and the suitcase from that card making kit stamp set. And I'm going to fuss around with my embellishing a lot. I do this a lot. I don't know about you guys, but embellishing is my favorite part, but it also is what I fuss with the most. And even though I had an inspiration layout to go off of, and I did put my embellishments in sort of similar places, they had one in the upper left and the lower right, and I did that as well, but my embellishment clusters are a lot bigger. I don't do very many 8.5 by 11-inch pages, and you can't fit as much on them as you can with a 12 by 12. I'm used to kind of, knowing how many embellishments and stickers and things I can pull in and still work without being too busy on a 12 by 12 layout. But I had a little bit more trouble with this size. Don't get me wrong, I had a lot of fun, and I really do enjoy this 8.5 by 11-inch size. But it did take me a little bit more fussing to kind of figure that out, and I probably went a little bit embellishment heavy because there was just a lot of fun stuff I wanted to use, and there's a lot of stuff on a cover page that you can do more than you necessarily can on the inside pages, because the inside pages are more like snorkeling and beach and things like that. And so I went really heavy on the travel theme on this little intro page, and I think it turned out fun. So anyways, all that to say, this is gonna be a lot of fussing around, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'm thinking that TRV travel tag on the bottom is a little bit big because I've got the big title, I've got the big globe, which I end up taking out and adding back in and not sure about. So I took out the tag because it just ended up being too big of an embellishment there. And then I'm going to try to figure out how to fit these suitcases and these tags, and they end up in very different places, but just kind of figuring it all out. And then I thought, oh, this suitcase stack might be cute, kind of stacked at the bottom instead of tucking it up underneath the photos, kind of have it anchored at the bottom of the layout because I had a lot of white space there rather than covering up more of the photos. And I do like how that turned out. And then I tucked that other little suitcase die right next to it. I'm going to have just a little bit of the globe sticking out at the top. I'm using some of those little tickets that I cut out from the stamping. And then those little tags that I cut out from the map pocket cards are also going up at the top. I wanted a little bit more sapphire, and I found this west arrow, and that worked perfectly because they went west to go to Hawaii. There's also a north, south, and east. And then this little rubber sticker, I ended up sticking it up here in the top. I tried it down below, but it's just very off in the size to go along with those other suitcases and stuff like that. It's so much smaller in scale, so it looked really funny at the bottom. And you know, you can tell that it's not to scale up at the top, but I think it's far enough away, and I just thought it was so cute. I just really wanted to use it. And then since I had these other stickers out from that Deck the Palms sticker sheet and paper pack, I thought that I would add a few of the Hawaiian flowers and leaves just to add a little nod to the fact that they're going to Hawaii, but I'll use more of those later in the album. I wanted to have more of the sapphire color, and I didn't like that glacier heart, so I decided to color it in with my navy journaling pen. But then I ended up not liking it. So I'm going to pull out a little blue heart from the blue embellishment pack. And then I'm going to stick some more of these little tags up here. While I do that, I'd like to remind you that if you are inspired by this video so far, I'd love it if you'd hit the like button so YouTube knows you're enjoying it. And if you haven't already subscribed, I would love it if you'd subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my scrapbooking videos every week. So now I'm going to add Hawaii 22. After all, we need to know what this album is for. And I'm going to do that with stamps. So this is where I said I might bring out an alphabet stamp set. So I just drew myself a line to make sure I got it straight. And I'm not going to show you this whole process because my head is in the way most of the time, but I'm just staying along that pencil line. And I'm going to use that same journaling pen to write a little, apostrophe for that 22. I felt like if I wrote out or stamped out 2022, it went farther than I wanted it to. I really like how this turned out, and here is a closer look at everything. If you want to see still shots, I have those on my social media channels, which are linked down below, as well as all of the products that I used. You can shop on my Close to My Heart website. If you'd like to see a double page layout from this same Hawaii album, click on the video that's on screen right now. Thanks for watching and have a great day.